I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. I got an editorial for you today about the decision by MultiGP to allow unrestricted battery voltage in the upcoming season. Don't ask me what the details are. All I know is I saw a video where some guy, the founder of MultiGP, was making an announcement that the racers would not, at some point in the future, would not be restricted to 4S like they are now. They would be able to use 5S, 6S, whatever, 10S, just figure out what gets you around the track the fastest. And this decision has courted some controversy. I got to think that this decision was spurred in part by, there have been some people recently experimenting with 6S, but not in the way that you think. See, traditionally, when people have in the past, traditionally, like hundreds of years ago, when people went to 6S, this is how they did it. No. What people used to do when they went to 6S was that they would keep the motor KV roughly the same, a highish KV. They would amp up the battery voltage and they would get massive RPMs because that's how KV works. And they would just destroy their batteries, but the quad would go so super freaking fast. If you look at top speed runs, where they're basically just trying to make the quad go as fast as it can for 30 seconds, for one run, 200 miles an hour. Those guys are all running high KV, high voltage, and that's why. Some people argue that's not the best for racing because if you can only get 30 seconds of flight time, go ask Matty Augustine how long his packs last. And I don't just mean how long each individual pack lasts before it's discharged and he has to land. I mean, ask him how long his packs last before they're just dead. It really abuses the packs, wears them out, sucks the amps out of them, and doesn't give you enough flight time maybe to finish a race. So Catalyst Machine Works released this video. I don't know if they were the first to do this or if they're just sort of popularizing it right now, where they were running like 1700 kV motors on 6S. And if you do the math, that works out to basically the same RPMs as like 2600 kV on 4S. So what they've done is they're using a higher voltage, but they've dialed down the kV, and then the RPMs are the same and nothing is different. I don't know, but they say they think there's some advantage, and maybe there is some advantage. They're actually sending me two quads. One of them, a 6S quad, the other a 4S quad, built exactly the same, and I'm going to test them out with the help of a racing pilot friend who will help me really ring them out. So I'm super looking forward to that. That's coming. But I'm not here to weigh in on whether 6S is better or whether 6S makes for a better race. That's for the racers to decide. Here's what I am here to weigh in on. Some people have responded to this decision by saying it's going to ruin MultiGP because it's going to turn it into a money game. You see, a pilot with unlimited money can buy these 6S packs, can run 2800 kV motors if he wants to, can thrash the dickens out of the packs, throw them out at the end of the race. Who cares, right? It's not his money. Then that may give him a competitive advantage. Whereas other racers who can only afford to run 4S, or maybe they have to be more gentle on their 6S packs if they choose to go that way, are going to be at a disadvantage. And when I heard that, my first thought was, if you think this decision is what's going to turn racing into a money game, I gotta think well, this is where I sound like a jerk. I think you're not paying attention, or maybe you're just uninformed, or maybe you just haven't had the opportunity to see how much money is already in the top tiers of racing. And here's what I mean by that. I know a guy who went to Sebring, the MultiGP race in Sebring recently. A very, very prestigious race. People came from all around the world to race there. Every single one of those guys had 6, 8, 10, 12 identical quadcopters that they go to the race. So that when they crash and they break an arm or whatever, if it's not flying right, they're not there in the pit with a freaking soldering iron struggling to put it back together before their next heat. They just throw it in the back of the van, get another quad, and go. And those racers show up with 20 brand new packs that they got from their battery sponsor. Those packs have been gently broken in, led a life of luxury, and then they start the race with this brand new pack. And those are just a few examples. There's more. The guys at the top tier of racing now, they're sponsored, or they're putting a lot of the money is already there. And going to 6S is not really going to change that, I don't think, in any fundamental way. So, good? I'm sorry. I've just told some of you that Santa Claus isn't real, and now you're no. I'm not saying that guys, that you guys can't be competitive if you don't have a lot of money. I'm just saying that you have to be a whole lot more competitive. And I was talking to my friend Nathan. You've seen him in some of my videos. He used to be a competitive kart racer, and although he's humble about it and doesn't bring it up, he was actually he was very good kart racer and competed at some of the highest levels of kart racing. And he says, listen, you got as much talent as you got in the room. If you have a guy who's like really good, he can make up a money deficit over a guy who is not quite as good. But at the top tiers of racing, at the national level, every freaking guy who's there is really freaking good, and they have money. So the guys who you'd have to be like astronomically good to overcome that. And that's just the way it is. So what can we do about that? I don't know. I mean, leave it to the racers. I heard so my first thought was, well, what about spec class? And spec class racing does level the playing field in some ways, in that everybody is using the same parts. But ultimately, the guy who shows up with 10 quads has an advantage over the guy who shows up with 2. And the guy who shows up with brand new batteries has an advantage over the guy who shows up with batteries that he's been using to practice. So that doesn't really solve the issue. I heard one proposal. Apparently, there's a race format where at the end of the race, there's a fixed price. Like you race cars and the price is $2,000. And at the end of the race, anyone can come up and buy the car off of you for that price, and you have to sell it to them. And that encourages you to make sure your car is as cheap as possible, but still win. And somebody said, maybe we should try something like that with racing. Still doesn't solve the problem with batteries, though. I don't know what the answer is. And maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine that at a very, very high level of competition, it's normal and natural that sponsors would get involved and money would get involved. I don't know about that. But I did want to respond to this one objection. MultiGP's decision to go to 6S, if it has ruined MultiGP, it's not because it brought money in, because money was already there. And if you just didn't notice, it seems like a lot of money. But if your Tattoo, if your Catalyst Machine Works, and if you're a company with a sponsored racer, thousands of dollars is not a lot of money compared to what you can make by selling quads or selling batteries if you win. It feels like a lot of money to us down on the ground, because to an individual it is a lot of money, but to a company it's not. And when the companies get involved, it just ramps everything up to the level where individuals have a very, very difficult time competing. So I guess the answer is, if you want to race, you got to get sponsored. Just that simple, right? Yeah. All right. Well, happy flying. Although it wasn't a very cheerful or upbeat editorial. Sorry. Happy flying anyway. It's about fun. At the end of the day, it's about fun, having a good time. I've never been to a national level race, but I've had a great time racing my buddies around a course in a field, and that's what it's all about. All right, I'm going to get out of here before I put my foot any further in my mouth. Bye, guys.